push him up and throw him up at a 45 towards me. I'll just back out of the way a little bit. So he pops up, and you can see where Mac's weight just eventually rolls over.
Violence destroys. Weaponizing is the counter strategies to violent criminal assault. Hey, I'm Greg LaBeouf, aka The Violence Guy, and I'm sharing with you how I went from the victim of a brutal attempted murder to mastering the tool of violence and protecting myself and family, and how you can do the same from the safety and comfort of your own home. Welcome to Weaponizing DIY.
Now, Brad, our good guy, lands down flat on the ground. He's on his back. Okay, and now all of a sudden, Mac, just scoot down maybe a little bit further that way, guys. There you go. Now Mac ends up on top of him. Now, mount basically is where Mac has one leg on either side of Brad. Okay? Now remember, in this position, he's not just, so sit back and kind of hold, yeah, now sit back, drop down, hold mount like you would jiu-jitsu. See, Mac would stabilize and base himself out like this, pinch his knees in. His weight's totally differently distributed. Okay? But if Mac actually got on in an assault situation, and he went to choke Brad, his weight is up. He's actually not sitting back down on top of Brad. He's leaning forward. All his weight is coming through the hands because he's literally trying to choke the life out of him. Okay, so now what Brad's going to do is something called the trap and roll escape. All right, so here's what's going to happen now. He's choking him. All Brad's going to do is he's going to take one hand. Now, he could come over top and grab, but notice how he's grabbing with a thumbless grip. Okay? He could also weave his hand in between, but he's isolating one of the arms. Now he's isolating this arm, and he's holding it nice and tight to his body. Not so much to break the choke. Yes, that's nice if he can alleviate some of the pressure, make sure blood continues to flow, but he's holding it because he's going to eventually try to roll him off. Now, when he grabs and stabilizes with the one hand, so the opposite side, the hand on the same side reaches up and supports or holds Mac's elbow in place. Now, why is he doing this? He's doing this because basically, think of somebody that is in a mount position on top of you, break the guard, break that grip for a second, as a table. So back leg, back leg, 4 legs of a table. This is how Mac is going to effectively stay on top of Brad. If Brad just tries to push him and roll him off there, Mac just uses his arm to stabilize. So every way Brad tries to throw Mac, he's using his arms and legs to hold himself on top of him. Never mind the fact if he outweighs him by 100 pounds, that helps too. Okay, so when they go back up to the choke position and Mac is leaning forward to choke him, Brad is trapping and effectively cutting off one of the legs of the table. And then he stabilizes that elbow, because if Mac was on top and Brad went to roll him, he could actually try to stabilize himself with that elbow if he felt himself going over. His body's naturally going to try to seek any balance it can find, any way to stabilize, to hold himself in this position. So what Brad has done here is held the one arm, stabilized it here, and now I'm going to have him turn again in a second, but you watch Brad's leg kick out, and he steps over and he traps Mac's back leg. He just steps in front of it. We'll do this again at a different angle so that you can see this. But now he has this side of the table, this leg of the table cut off, and this leg of the table cut off. Now remember, what makes this work, especially if you're a smaller, lighter individual, you think, oh, this guy's so big and heavy, how am I going to get him over? Well, number one, don't just try to roll him. What you need to do is to get his weight, which is already forward because he's invested in the choke, you need to get that, it's kind of some centrifugal force, get it rolling down its own self, use his own weight against him. So what Brad's going to do now is he's going to use his legs and his hips, and he's going to bridge, he's going to push him up and throw him up at a 45 towards me. I'll just back out of the way a little bit. So he pops up, and you can see where Mac's weight just eventually rolls over. Now the second that he did that, I want you to watch what happened. They landed, and the second they landed, Brad slides his arms back, and he traps on the outside of Mac's legs. Now, we're going to do this again, so if you can't quite see this, bear with me. But what he's doing is he's stabilizing his legs because he wants to get out from between his legs so Mac doesn't lock him in his guard. Now remember, most people on the street, they'd have to know the value of crossing their legs. They'd have to know the value of the guard, which most don't. So now what happens is Brad quickly slides his hands back to those legs, pushes down, so you see how he keeps his legs supported and open so that Mac can't close his legs around him, and then he just pops up and he would step up and out of there. Look again at the posture. Mac's not sitting back. Sit back for a second, Mac, and Brad, keep your hands up. If this is what was happening, there's no way Brad will roll his weight. I mean, he might because he's strong and stuff, and they're not, like Mac doesn't outweigh him by much, you know what I mean? They're around the same weight. So Maybe. But if you're a smaller person and this person outweighs you by 40 or 50 pounds, ladies, if you get your husband to help you with this, or husbands, you want to try and show your wives this move, and you sit on them low like that and back, they're never going to move you. Okay? But that's not realistic. If you were actually sitting up and thinking, man, what would it be like if I was actually trying to choke you, if I was angry? So go ahead. That's what that looks like. Look how far forward Mac's weight is. How much of his own weight did he move? Now Brad reaches through, grabs the hand. Remember, keep your thumb on top. That's a thumb grip, that's a thumbless grip. Be a thumbless grip when you grab, you'll have more strength. Now he stabilizes the elbow. Let me back out of the way here a bit, because this is the part maybe you couldn't quite see as well. He steps now, and he steps in front of Mac's foot. So that way Mac can't shoot his leg out to try to stabilize. Okay, now we're a little tight to the wall here, but he brings his other foot up, and just mimic it a couple times. Show him the bridge. See how he's not trying to roll over? See where Mac's own weight. Once Brad only has to move him a couple of inches forward before Mac starts to feel his own weight topple over. Now, another great thing, let me just, how would that be? If all of a sudden now I tell Brad to go ahead and do that, what's Mac's face planting into? With no way to stop himself, he's going head plant into the concrete. Maybe it knocks him out, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it cheese grates his face a bit. That's pretty good. I'll take that. I'll just throw that back. He's too good looking to mess him up, so we got to take care of him. All right, so just modify a little bit for me. Buzz up, boom, they roll over. Now, if I get it away, right away, look at Brad's arms. They come sliding back. And just kind of keep going, Brad, slowly moving. He goes back, and see how he presses on the inside of his thighs right away and starts to push himself back so that he doesn't get wrapped up in that guard, and then he's out. If you can, do me one time, come back into the guard. Watch Brad's head position. He keeps his head low and tight to Mac. As his hands reach back, that way if Mac's trying to punch and stuff, he doesn't have his face up. And look, the whole time, see how he turned his head away? The whole time he kept his head covered and tucked. But I just want you to watch him do it one more time from start to finish. I'll just kind of slide back a bit. Weights up, reaches through, grabs, stabilizes elbow, hooks the foot, and then up and to the side. Bridge, boom, till he rolls. Head down, hands back, slides up, inside, push down, and he slides up and he gets out.